So the first step is now we have our samples that we want. Before we go back into Logic, we have to either, if you have a drum kit, and I'm going to be covering a lot of different ways to do this, but in this video, I'm going to be covering how I play world drum samples on my electronic drum kit in Logic. Okay. First thing you have to do is on the drum brain itself, you have to turn local control off. And if you have an entry-level drum brain like mine, it's a Roland TD1, you cannot do that on the drum brain. On the higher level ones, you can turn local control off. It's a menu choice. But since I can't do that, I have to mute the audio. The next best thing you can do is mute the audio coming out of your drums. And here's my drum channel. And I'm going to mute it because I don't want to hear the audio in Logic. I just want to hear, I just want to hear the MIDI. So we have to mute it. And then next we're going to move on into Logic. So then the next step is we're going to open Logic. It doesn't make any difference. You can use an existing project or a new empty project. I'm going to choose a new empty project. You're going to choose software instrument, and for some reason Drum Machine Designer doesn't show up in my list. It's here, it just doesn't show up when I open up a new track. So the easiest way to do that is to get it is just choose an empty channel strip and then click on create. Okay, and then for our instrument, there's Drum Machine Designer. Never shows up when I open a new project. I don't know why, but it doesn't make any difference. So, okay, so we're going to open Drum Machine Designer. And you're going to have an empty kit here. Before we go on, if you're using electronic drums or drum pads, you have to know what note the pad or the drum pad, what note it's transmitting to Logic. And if you don't already know this, I'm about to show you how to find out. And then you'll want to write this down for your pads or your drum kit, whatever you have. So I'm going to go on my drum kit and just start hitting the triggers. Like this is the tom trigger. And it's sending, see how G2 is highlighted? It's sending G2. So just write that down. And the same thing is true with your other pads. So I'm going to hit my ride symbol. And it's sending D#3. See how that's highlighted? You can also see it up here. No, wrong one. There we go. D#3. Okay. Now my ride has several zones on it. So if I hit the edge, it's sending D#3. If I hit the bell, it's sending B3. So you got to make a note of that too. And B3 is on the next page here. Yeah. Okay. If I hit the snare pad, it's sending D2. Hit one of the toms, it's sending A2. The other tom, F2. The hi-hat, A#2. And let me hit the crash, and it'll be a crash and then a kick and the hi-hat pedal. Hold on. That was Crash, setting C sharp 3. And the kick, sending C2. And the hi-hat pedal, I didn't see it in time on my screen, but anyway, the hi-hat pedal is sending a note. So, ideally, in a perfect world, you want to write those down because when I'm actually playing my drum kit, it does make a difference what pads or what triggers I have the samples assigned to. So anyway, that's the next step, and hold on just a second for step 3. Okay, and part 3. So we're back in Logic again. We have all our samples chopped the way we want them, and named properly, because the next step is going to be a nightmare if you don't name these properly. You want to name all your tracks properly, and you want to name all your regions in your tracks, because these are the samples. You want to make sure that all the regions in the tracks are named properly. It's a lot easier if you start off with naming your track right, and that way when you chop your regions, the regions are going to be named the way you want them. Okay, so let's just have a listen to one just to make sure that it plays properly. And it does. Okay, so it plays properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to export all of these as WAV files. Easiest way to do it is just highlight all of them. And yeah, I know this balafon down here, it's not really a drum. It's like a vibraphone. It's tuned percussion. But I'm gonna sample it anyway. It's beautiful. I love it. So, okay, so we got all of them highlighted. We're gonna do export 85 regions as audio files. I've got 85 good samples here. Okay. Now, I have already gone into Finder and created a folder with my world drum samples that I want. See how the easiest way I found to manage samples is tag them. So here in the tags, I've got, can't see all of it right there, drum percussion samples. We're going to open that. That's the folder I want to use. World drum audio samples. Okay. We're going to click on export, and in a minute, and it's going to give me a file name example of how Logic, or how the Mac is going to name the is going to name the samples, and that's fine. So we're going to click on export, and it's going to give me a message that I've already done this before. No, it didn't. Okay. So just wait while it exports all the regions, and should be done here pretty quickly. And so now we have our samples properly created, chopped, exported, and to make it easy for me, I go into Finder, and before I actually export my samples, I go into Finder on the Mac, create a new folder, or make sure that I've selected the folder I want. to save all my samples in, and then export my samples into that folder. But I also tag that. I also tag those files, those samples that I just created. I give it a color tag, and you can do that in Finder. You just tag it green, blue, or whatever, and name your tag. So I think I've named my tag drum MIDI samples, something like that. So that way, no matter what folder they're in, wherever they are on the Mac, they're tagged green. So when I go into Finder, hit the green tag, boom, there's all my samples that I want. So we're back in Logic again. We're starting again with an empty, with a new project. Okay, we're going to choose Software Instrument, Empty Channel Strip, click on Create. We're going to go to Instrument and pick Drum Machine Designer. Okay, we're going to open Drum Machine Designer. Now, what I told you earlier in this video, it was that to hit, if you're going to play these samples, there's a lot of different ways to play them. You can play them on a keyboard or on a pads like on your controller, or pads on your, like an MPD 218. But I'm going to set up a drum kit on my real drum kit, on my TD1, my Roland TD1 drum kit. So I have to know what note numbers each pad is transmitting, and we did that earlier. So like my ride is D sharp 3, floor tom is G2, the right tom is, the rack tom is A2, the left rack tom is F2, the snare is D2, hi-hat is A sharp 2, hi-hat pedal is G sharp 2, crash is C sharp 3, and the kick is C2. So we know that. Okay, let's start with the ride. The ride is D sharp 3. So we're going to highlight that, go into Finder, yep. These are the audio samples that I just created, most of them anyway. So for the ride, if I want to play something that sounds like a ride, like these clock chime cymbals, that sounds pretty cool. Just click that and drag it up there. And same thing with the rest of your samples. So let's go back into Finder again. Here we go. So for the kick, which is C, yeah, there it is, C2. Let's pick something real low. And okay, like a cloth drum. Okay, so what did I do? There it is, C2. Okay, so that's how you do it. And like I said, easiest way to do it. You can actually highlight more, but what I'm going to do is I'm not going to extend this part of the video out. I think you get the idea. But it's easier, like I said, it's a lot easier to build drum kits if you save all your samples and tag them. See how I've got these tagged green drum percussion samples? That way I can find them anywhere they are on the computer. It doesn't really matter. So let's go, like, all I got to do is click on that, and there's all my drum samples. Everywhere on the computer. This is World Drum audio samples. Okay. And so forth and so on. So that's how we're going to build this kit using Drum Machine Designer. And I'll be able to play this on my electronic drum kit. Next video is going to show you the completed kit. Okay, and the last part of building a world drum kit in Drum Machine Designer, which actually is probably the easiest way to go, is, okay, so now we've got Drum Machine Designer open. We've got our samples dragged over where we want them. And remember how I found them? I went into Finder and I went into my tags. Since I have all my drum samples tagged green, just click on the green drum percussion samples. Shows me all the samples I have everywhere on my computer. And I can search for anything I want. I'm going to go to the world drum audio samples that I just created. Okay. Drag your sample over to whatever trigger you want to play it on. And what I did is I've created kind of a hybrid Chinese-Japanese drum kit. And so on the kick, which is C1 or C2, it's playing Daiko, I think is just a Japanese word for drums. Okay, yeah, there it is. C2 is a kick. And here's the sample. And the crash, get ready for this, is a gong. And A2 is my right rack tom. And A1 is, I don't remember what trigger that is. Floor tom? No. There it is. My open hi-hat is A# 2. Okay, closed hi-hat, which is what you get when you depress the pedal, the hi-hat pedal, and then play the hi-hat. And that's pretty good. All right. Frame drum finger slap. I think it's a snare. A2. No, that's my right rack tom. Okay. Ride is this, which is basically clock chimes. Okay. G2 is my floor tom. And that's it. So when I play my drum kit, I'm gonna get it's a hybrid Japanese Chinese drums, and none of these are actually in Logic. Like I said, sampled them from elsewhere, LPs, CDs, stuff like that. And then all you do is when you pull them over into Drum Machine Designer, pull them over to whatever cell you want it on. Like this is my kick. Then you're going to open up Sampler Detail because it uses sampler. So you're going to open up Sampler Detail and tune it however you want. You can bring the volume up or down. You can tune the pitch up a little bit, although I don't need to at all. But you can tune it. You can apply a filter if you need to. Don't need to. But I did want to bring the volume up just a tad bit. All right. Same thing with every sample. This is my crash. I open up Sampler Detail, and if I need to make any changes, I could. Obviously don't need to bring the volume up at all. Might actually need to bring it down a little bit, but I'm going to leave it alone for now. Okay. And for my left rack tom, which is this, I brought the volume up. It was at 0. I brought the volume up to as high as you can bring it up here. And that sounds pretty good. Same thing with all of these. You click on them. This is G2 is my floor tom. Didn't need to bring the volume up on that too much. I brought it up a smidge from 0 to +2 decibels, but just a smidge. Might not even need to do that. Might be able to bring it back down to 0. Yeah. Okay, and for the ride, those are clock chimes, and could bring it up smidge. See how it rings out real nice? That's perfect. Okay, and then we just name our kit. Double click up there, call it Chinese, Japanese kit. And now, if I hit triggers on my actual drum kit, that's the snare, that's the floor tom, that's the ride, that's the right tom, which I always play. I actually don't usually use 2 toms, but I usually just play the left tom. But I wanted to assign the right tom. I wanted to assign some kind of a sample to the right tom. And the left tom, snare, open hi-hat, and the good old gong. So that's how you use Drum Kit Designer to build a world drum kit using samples that are not part of Logic. And this is the end result. Drummers call these paradiddles. They're just practice exercises. This is a paradiddle. A paradiddle pattern played on my TD1 electronic drum kit using the new Chinese-Japanese kit that I just created in Drum Kit Designer. And by default, your track is going to show up in Logic, and when you record, it's going to look like that. You got to click on this disclosure triangle to bring all of your subtracks into view. So this is what I just recorded. Again, it's just paradiddles on what are normally considered to be snare, ride, and kick. Okay, but these are on a frame drum for the snare and the Japanese Daiko high for the ride, and the Daiko brush low for the kick. Again, just a simple paradiddle exercise, but done using my new Chinese-Japanese kit. So that's how we do it in Drum Kit Designer, or Drum Machine Designer. Still thinking about whether or not I'm going to show you how to do it in Drum Kit Designer. It's a little bit different, but you can do this in Drum Kit Designer. But in the meantime, have fun sampling your own drums. And this is, like I said, this is how I do it.